You know, Diddy bought his son a Bentley. Maybe, you know, he could buy you one also while you're
He
out.
got me a Lamborghini. It's,
Oh, well, that's nice.
I haven't gotten it yet, though.
Yeah, I know. When is that coming, that Lamborghini? We talked about this last
He
time.
had the Lamborghini for a day or two, and he had access to the house, and he knows better than to be talking about the things that he does with Big Brother Puff on national television.
Something changed the moment Joe Rogan hit play on an old interview clip. It was supposed to be just another episode, another breakdown of celebrity behavior. But what he heard about Justin Bieber's early years hit harder than anyone expected. At first, the tone was light. Diddy laughed about spending a weekend with 15-year-old Bieber, making it sound like a wild adventure. But as Joe watched more closely, something didn't feel right. Why was this teenager being handed off like a business card? Why did no one raise concerns back then? Joe knew it was time to dig deeper.
And good luck when you're older. You know, Justin Bieber had a post the other day on his Instagram talking about all the drugs that he did when he was younger and how much it fucked him up. And now he's got a relationship with the Lord, and he's got, you know, he's married, and he's trying to be a normal person.
Yeah.
But he's struggling with the fact that he was insanely famous when he was a kid.
So check this out, yo. Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, you know, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. You know, I have been given custody of him. You know, he signed to Usher.
Signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when you know he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So
with every minute that passed, new questions came to light. Why was a kid still barely in high school taken under the wing of a powerful adult with no clear boundaries? Why did managers and record labels stay silent when Diddy claimed he was mentoring Justin for 48 hours straight? Joe Rogan sat back in disbelief. "This doesn't sit right with me," he said. Not at all. Joe's podcast quickly turned into an open investigation. He brought in experts, friends of the Bieber family, and people who once worked around Diddy. The goal wasn't to stir drama, it was to uncover truth. And what Joe found was alarming. People remembered Justin disappearing for days at a time. Contracts were signed in a hurry. Flights were booked under different names. And Justin, still just a kid, looked tired and confused in every picture from those events.
And then you have him come to audition for you, right?
Actually, with a few people. My wife at the time.
Right.
It also was Perry Reed, L.A. Reid's first wife.
So you were all sitting in a room
We
somewhere.
were in a room.
Yeah.
And I showed her the video. And Perry says, "Are you crazy? You better get down there and meet this kid right now. He's amazing."
When all these pics come out and all this stuff with Bieber's big penis, are you the mastermind behind that? Say, listen, show off your big penis and people will come to those concerts. Or are you sitting there?
Is that the kind of manager he's doing?
Usher, are you sitting down with him and saying, yeah, show your or leave it in your pants? I mean, do you sit him down and say, look, part of this is PR,
Hey,
man.
by the way, he does have a brain of his own.
Yeah, but were you shocked at the size of his penis?
Hey, listen, he has a mind of his own. What he chose to do with his penis is his prerogative. He's managing that aspect of his life.
But Usher is somebody...
I have nothing to do with Justin Bieber's private parts, man.
Flown out to Atlanta by a manager. His name's Scooter Braun. Flown out to Atlanta just to meet with him and meet different producers and different people. I was actually going to meet Jermaine Dupri at his studio. And who rolls up? Usher in his Range Rover. Yeah, rolls up. And I was like, "Is that who I think it is?" And Scooter was like, "Yeah." And so I ran up to him and I was like, Usher, I love your songs. You want me to sing you one?" And he was like, "Let's just go inside, little buddy. It's cold out." So the politest possible way he could say no, he did. And I was like, wow, he just turned me down. And I was a little disappointed. He had to go into a studio session, so I was like, whatever. And a week later, he actually watched my videos with my manager and was like, "Oh my gosh, why didn't I let him sing?" So flew me back to Atlanta where I got to meet him again, and he wanted to sign me. But there was something else.
Justin Timberlake, right?
Yes, Justin Timberlake also wanted to sign me. It was like kind of like what happened was Justin Timberlake and Usher both went into a ring and boxed it out. And the outcome was Usher. I think it was a TKO.
Because I think if a victim comes out against Usher, it'll show how egregious this shit is. Because if he can be a predator, then anybody can be a predator.
Can't smile on your face the whole time.
You feel what I'm saying? Like, people look at Usher, they don't see that. They're not seeing the victim. They're not seeing that boy that got rushed to the hospital. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there. Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute. And his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that.
One of the biggest moments came when Joe read a journal entry from Bieber's early career. The words were simple: "I miss home. I don't want to be here anymore." The room fell silent. Joe's voice cracked. "That's not the voice of a pop star living the dream," he said. "That's a kid asking for someone to notice," and people noticed. Fans who had grown up with Justin began sharing old memories online. They pointed out times he looked out of place or stressed on stage. Clips of him yawning during interviews, snapping at cameras, or walking away from fans suddenly looked different. It wasn't attitude, it was exhaustion. Joe continued digging. He found documents showing how Diddy had requested control over Justin's lodging, travel, and team access for certain events. These requests weren't part of any standard contract. In fact, they didn't go through official channels at all. Joe asked, why would someone outside the management team have this kind of influence?
So many horrific accusations, though, involving young singers, like children.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It's insane.
He makes R. Kelly look like a decent guy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
It is crazy. And meanwhile, the guy was like hanging out with Oprah, hanging out with Obama.
Jay-Z,
everybody.
everyone.
Everybody.
I'm sure the Clintons were there at some point.
Maybe Bill.
What's going on with you guys? Are you working together?
I'm not. I mean, I think that we've become friends in a strange way, you know.
Like Robin Big.
Yeah. It's like exactly.
I'm big and you're Robin.
Yeah. No, I mean, to a lot of us, he's like a little brother. You know what I'm saying? He's not afraid to call and ask for advice. He's somebody that, in the industry-wise, the record industry is a strong family, and he's somebody that, you know, we definitely have our arms around, and we want to protect him because he's such genuinely a nice person besides his talent. You know what I'm saying? He's one of the greatest kids that you could ever know.
That question led to more discoveries. Joe's team found security footage from a property linked to one of Diddy's companies. In the video, a young Justin walked down a hallway late at night, guarded by 2 adults. He looked nervous. It was past 3 a.m. He wasn't headed to a studio or a meeting, he was simply walking. The footage raised more questions than answers. Viewers were shocked, but they weren't angry at Justin. They were angry for him. Messages flooded Joe's inbox. "Thank you for speaking up," our one fan wrote. "We always knew something wasn't right." Joe used the momentum to push for real changes. He called on record labels to be more transparent with their contracts. He asked talent managers to start placing kids' health above their careers. "You can't sell dreams if they come with nightmares," he said.
I always say this about Justin Bieber. When people hear about him going insane, like, of course he's going insane. You have no idea what it would be like to be him and to be 17 years old. And girls literally trying to break into his house. They're coming down chimneys. They're flying in on parachutes. They're doing anything they can. They just want to be around him. You want him to be normal?
Oh, man, poor guy.
We had seen these videos of Justin Bieber being handed over to him at age 15. Great job. And for his weekend with Diddy camp. I mean, we don't know, but it certainly looks like Justin Bieber is still suffering the fallout from whatever happened to him as he was coming up the ranks of the music world. It really doesn't seem worth it. I mean, I'd love to hear more from his camp about what's real, because it's clear he's suffering. We just don't know from what. And what mother out there would give her 15-year-old boy over to a grown man who's in the rap industry for a weekend with Diddy camp without other adult supervision?
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good? Selling out arenas and everything? starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Correct. Okay.
My number?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you my number.
Yeah.
It's 555.
Yes. Okay.
5555.
Okay. 55. You heard that?
Yeah.
Okay.
As the podcast gained attention, more voices came forward. Former teen stars spoke about being overworked, undersupported, and pressured into long hours with no breaks. One girl shared how she was told not to call her mom during training weekends. Another young artist said he wasn't allowed to leave a private estate until he finished rehearsing 10 hours straight. Joe brought these stories to light without exploiting the pain. He reminded viewers that these weren't just stars. They were kids when it all happened, and their stories mattered. Meanwhile, Diddy's public image started crumbling. Partnerships vanished overnight. A sportswear company paused a sneaker release tied to his brand. One magazine pulled his feature story from the cover. Joe didn't gloat. He simply said, "Accountability doesn't destroy careers. Actions do."
He did an interview back in 2020 with Zane Lowe. I think this was on Apple Music. And he was speaking about another young artist that was coming up, Billie Eilish, and Eilish. And he was basically speaking about how he wanted to protect her because she was now another young person, a rising artist in the industry. And sort of out of nowhere, he became quite overcome with emotion.
The you of then was on a path of self-destruction.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would have, for sure, 100%. Yeah. It would have been no bueno. It was bad. I don't know if I'd be alive, for sure. It was dark. So I'm very, very grateful to have influences in my life that have played a huge part in me seeing their relationship with Jesus and their relationship with their wives and their relationship with their kids and saying that's what I want. But I want to definitely tell my story so that if that resonates to anybody, that they can hopefully. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters. And
months ago, I was really struggling mentally and emotionally, and just there were so many things that were adding up, and I wasn't able to enjoy any of the things that I own.
That stuff's not going to matter to you.
None of the actual things did anything because I was so hurt and I was so confused and I was so sick and there was all these things, and I was like, I can't, there's like, you just can't, like you said, you can't enjoy the actual physical, tangible, like things that money offers, right?
Anyways, I want to also just show you this montage. This is a montage that was shared by Evie Magazine. They do great work on their TikTok of Justin Bieber, again, just 15 years old, in Hollywood, surrounded by a bunch of adults. And you let me know if any of this registers to you as normal. Take a listen.
Wow. I feel violated right now. Wow.
Lean into me again. You smell amazing. How old are you?
Thank you.
How old are you?
I'm 16. I'll be 17 in like 2 weeks.
I don't ever remember smelling that good at 16. Like that was bad.
Yeah.
Wow, look at your eyes. Look at what a beautiful face. All right, now it's time to...
Industry insiders began calling into the show. One producer admitted he had seen Justin push too hard during a tour. A vocal coach remembered how young artists were often forced into routines with no breaks. We thought it was part of the grind, the coach said. Now I see it was too much. Joe's response: being successful doesn't mean you should suffer. In time, the conversation spread beyond music. Actors, models, and athletes began sharing similar stories. One child actor recalled being told to stay on set for 16 hours without a parent present. Another young athlete said he had been flown across the country without his family just to meet a sponsor. The patterns were becoming clear. To keep the focus on solutions, Joe partnered with advocacy groups. Together, they launched a campaign called Protect Young Talent. The goal? Educate parents, young performers, and agents on how to spot red flags in the industry. Joe featured checklists, hotline numbers, and legal resources on his website. Parents across the country responded. Some pulled their kids out of talent programs, others demanded better terms before signing contracts. Schools began inviting guest speakers to talk about mental wellness for young entertainers. A few states even proposed new laws to limit how much control adults can have over young performers without legal guardians present. Diddy stayed mostly silent, only releasing short statements through his team. But Joe kept going. Every episode brought new insights. A retired tour manager shared how Bieber would sometimes fall asleep during rehearsals. A former bodyguard admitted he once had to stop someone from barging into Justin's hotel room without warning. Each story added another piece to the puzzle. Joe's message was clear. Fame should lift people up, not tear them down. At one point, Joe interviewed a music lawyer who explained how minors often sign contracts they don't fully understand. She said some agreements have loopholes that let outsiders manage a young artist's schedule, transportation, and even who they can talk to. That kind of control is dangerous, she warned. The episode struck a nerve. Within days, 3 record labels promised to review their contract terms for underage artists. One label added a clause requiring parental presence for all off-site mentorships. Another introduced a mental health break into every young artist's calendar. Joe shared the news with hope in his voice. "This is how we fix things," he said, step by step. More former associates began speaking up about Diddy's management style. A photographer claimed Diddy used to insist on full control over a teen artist's schedule before agreeing to a photo shoot. A choreographer said she had to teach dance routines in private homes with no staff around. Joe listened to every story, shook his head, and said, "That's not a mentorship. That's manipulation." Justin Bieber didn't say much publicly, but his actions spoke volumes. He posted pictures of nature, church, and music. Fans noticed how peaceful he seemed. One photo showed him sitting under a tree, eyes closed, guitar on his lap. The caption said, "Grateful." Joe paused during an episode, looked at that post, and said, "That's the goal. Peace. Not parties, not power, just peace." More reforms came. One music festival added wellness coaches to their talent roster. Another created a parent lounge on set so guardians never had to be far away. Studios began requiring check-ins with younger artists during long projects. These changes weren't flashy, but they made a difference. The final part of Joe's journey came during a live stream. A viewer asked, "What do you want from all this?" Joe thought for a moment and replied, "I want the next Justin Bieber to grow up without fear. I want them to be excited, not anxious. And I want everyone who failed these kids to be held accountable." The audience applauded online. Comments filled the screen. "Thank you, Joe. You're the voice we needed. Let's keep going." And they did. Fans, parents, artists, and even companies took the lesson seriously. They promised to protect future talent, speak up early, and never allow fame to be an excuse for control again. Through it all, Joe Rogan never backed down. He showed the world that one voice, backed by truth, could change an entire industry, and that sometimes the most powerful sound isn't a hit song, it's someone finally saying, "Enough." After the wave of industry reforms and countless voices stepping forward, Joe Rogan wasn't done. He knew that real change didn't come from just one story. It came from pressure, consistency, and a refusal to let the public forget. As headlines continued to swirl, Joe used his platform to ask even bigger questions. How deep did the control go? And how many people had looked the other way when they should have spoken up? More than ever, Joe's podcast became a safe place for those who had stayed quiet for too long. A veteran vocal coach told Joe that years ago, he had raised concerns about how a certain artist was being treated. Instead of being thanked, he was fired. "They told me to mind my business," he said, Mike. "So I did. And I've regretted it every day since." Joe didn't shame him. Instead, he said, You're doing the right thing now. That matters." More professionals came forward, former drivers, assistants, and interns. They weren't celebrities, but they had seen enough. One driver recalled picking up young performers from training homes and dropping them off at late-night sessions. Diddy tried to stay silent, but it only made things worse. His social media went dark, public events were canceled, a tour was quietly postponed without explanation. Brands that once fought to work with him now scrubbed his name from their websites. The message was clear. The public wasn't buying the silence anymore. Then came the lawsuits. A former employee of one of Diddy's companies filed a legal claim, stating he had been pressured to ignore questionable behavior. A legal team representing another former teen artist opened an investigation into their early contract terms. These weren't criminal charges, but they showed a growing trend. People were beginning to stand up. Joe covered every step, not with anger, but with determination. This isn't about taking someone down, he reminded viewers. It's about lifting others up who were taken advantage of. He invited legal experts to explain how entertainment contracts can be written in confusing language. People sign away their rights without even knowing it, one lawyer said, especially kids. Meanwhile, Justin Bieber continued focusing on his recovery and peace. He didn't address the details publicly, but his music began reflecting a clearer message. Fans noticed lyrics about truth, growth, and letting go. One song even ended with a soft line, "No one owns me now." It wasn't a direct attack, but it said enough. Joe praised Bieber's courage, saying, "That's how you rise above it, with grace and honesty." Other artists who had once stayed in the shadows now began opening up too. A former teen duo who had split up years ago under mysterious circumstances appeared on Joe's podcast. They admitted that pressure from higher-ups and the fear of speaking out had caused them to walk away from music. "We were scared," one of them said. "We didn't want to lose our careers, but we lost ourselves instead." Joe looked them in the eyes and said, "You just found yourselves again." Fans responded with support. Social media was filled with messages of encouragement. People created video tributes, podcasts, and blog posts dedicated to raising awareness. One high school in Texas even hosted a school-wide event about protecting young talent inspired by Joe's podcast. Schools and communities across the country began discussing how fame affects kids. Teachers used episodes from Joe's show as the starting point for classroom talks. Joe brought this topic to government leaders too. He invited a senator to discuss new proposals to protect child performers. The senator, inspired by the movement, revealed plans for a national watchdog group that would oversee youth contracts in music, film, and sports. "Too many young people have fallen through the cracks," she said. "We're building a net." Joe nodded and said, "This is the start of something real." Meanwhile, more eyes turned toward Diddy. A documentary team announced they were compiling stories from those who had worked under his brand. They promised to focus on patterns of control, silence, and fear. Joe supported the project, offering his podcast platform to promote the film when ready. Backlash grew stronger. Music awards shows quietly removed Diddy's name from their nominees. Even longtime collaborators began to distance themselves. A well-known DJ who had once praised Diddy on stage now said, "There's a difference between building a legacy and controlling people. I was wrong not to see it." As all this unfolded, Joe stayed calm and steady. He encouraged fans to stay focused on the real goal, change. "It's not about canceling someone," he said. "It's about correcting the system." He celebrated the wins, big and small. A young singer posted online that her new contract guaranteed weekly mental health support. Another artist announced that her parents had full approval over all events. "These are the things that matter just a year why bardir bino corserbu noi armir dir said barse." The most powerful moment came during a live show when Joe got a call from a former child actor. She said she had always admired Joe but never expected him to care about this issue. "You gave people like me a voice," she said. "Thank you for that." Joe didn't respond with a speech. He just smiled and said, "That's why we're here." As time passed, Diddy's name became less about music and more about questions. People wondered how someone could gain so much power without enough checks in place. Joe warned that this wasn't just about one person, it was about an entire industry that needed reform. The pressure worked. Record labels began hosting internal reviews. Music academies launched ethics classes for future producers and agents. A new handbook titled Youth and Entertainment, Rights, Rules, and Red Flags became required reading in several training schools. Joe kept his promise to support youth groups, donating earnings from every episode that touched on this subject. He partnered with therapists, lawyers, and educators to build an online resource hub where families could find help before signing any deal. At one point, he said, "If I had known earlier, I would have spoken up then. But I know now. And I'm not stopping." More high-profile celebrities finally took a stand. A famous talk show host admitted she had turned a blind eye for too long. A well-known producer released a statement supporting reforms and apologized for ignoring earlier signs. Even some of Diddy's former partners joined the movement, offering resources to help young artists avoid similar experiences. Fans were shocked by how quickly things were changing. "It's like the whole industry is waking up," one comment read. Joe kept the focus on solutions. He challenged everyone to be part of the fix. If you're in a position of power, use it right. If you see something off, say something. And if you're just starting out, know your worth. He closed one episode with a final message to the young artists everywhere. You are more than a contract, more than a hit song. You are a person, and no one should have control over your peace. The podcast, once known for fights and laughs, had now become a source of healing. It was a guidebook, a rally cry, and a mirror for an industry that had ignored too many warnings. Joe Rogan wasn't doing this for fame. He was doing it for the kid inside every artist who thought they had to stay quiet. And in doing so, he reminded the world that true power comes from standing up, not standing by.